Okay, Pekka, good morning, man. How you doing?
All good here. How are you?
Good, good. Well, good afternoon to you. You're in a little bit of a different time zone than I am right now. All right, so Pekka, again, man, thanks for joining me today. We've been talking for a bit back and forth, and I know we had some. Obviously, you have a lot going on where you're at, and and I'm sure it's makes scheduling a little bit difficult. But as always, I appreciate you for joining. So, I just wanted to start off. Tell me a little bit about you. Your background that you're comfortable sharing. Just where you came from, and where you think you're going, essentially.
Um, so, mm, yeah, first of all, my name is Pekka Kallioniemi. Can be the surname, especially can be a little tricky for non-Finnish speakers, but my background is in research. So I finished my PhD in interactive technology in 2018. Uh, Today, I focus my research mostly focuses on disinformation, information operations, especially Russia. But I also do some research on China's information operations and social media, of course, because that's basically where I also kind of promote my work. But yeah, I come from research, and that's basically almost all of my life. I've been involved in academia, so I'm kind of used to doing fact checking and that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's got to come in handy for what you've been working on lately. And I gotta ask, like, how how did the Vatnik soup even get started? Like, where'd the name come from? What really spurred you? Because I didn't even I've seen some of your videos with the where you're in the chef outfit and in the kitchen. Like, where'd that all come from?
Okay, I have no idea. Okay, but so the whole thing, the Twitter threads or X threads, whatever they are, it started. I started doing them mostly for myself because I realized that a lot of the disinformation and kind of a war propaganda related to Ukraine was coming from some specific accounts. So in academia, they're called super spreader accounts. So if you probably one of the best known super spreader account at the moment is Jackson Hinkle. So a huge following and a lot of these original narratives come from these kind of super spreader accounts. And I started kind of looking into them first in the scale of Finland. So I looked at Finnish so-called super spreaders and who are mainly responsible for pro-Kremlin narratives and propaganda in Finland. I quickly kind of got a list of names and I started researching them a little bit and I realized that most of the Finnish discussion revolving around the Russia-Ukrainian war came from these accounts, especially the pro-Kremlin discussions. And I thought that it's always the same discussion. It felt like I was in the movie The Groundhog Day because it was
Yeah.
always the same narratives. It was always the bioweapons labs. It was always the genocide and shelling of Donbass for 8 years. It was all NATO expansion. It was always the same narratives and Minsk Accords. Uh, and I thought that it doesn't seem organic, and I started looking more into these people, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna do these mini threads on Twitter because I had seen them being quite popular on Twitter before, so I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. It was surprising. It went surprisingly well. It was quite popular. The first one, it's about Finnish propagandist Janus Putkonen, and I thought, okay, I'll do this again tomorrow. I'll try it again. Let's see if it's just like a good luck or something, or algorithm was just being nice to me. And then they were quite popular. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this as long as people can't read them. And yeah, here we are, 1 year later, still doing
Yeah,
Vatnik
well,
soups.
yeah, and they're getting better and better. I'll tell you that. It's interesting. So you were saying that it was in Finland that you were seeing a lot of the same narratives back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Out of curiosity, with the ascension to NATO, have you seen or heard different? Has the narratives shifted at all from what you were hearing beforehand?
Not really. The only thing that's changed is that these actors are they've lost their powers. Nobody well, gives a shit about them anymore, basically. Uh, and I don't think it's because of Vatnik, but I think it's because Finland has been very good at teaching media literacy and kind of teaching about disinformation already in primary school, even in kindergarten. You have stories about this kind of stuff. So the good education system gives a pretty good, I wouldn't say immunity, but resistance to this kind of narratives. And of course,
Interesting.
yeah, and of course we have history with the Russians or the Soviet Union. They invaded us, used a false flag operation. They shelled their own people, and then they started to invade Finland. So we kind of had the history is always with us, and it hasn't been that long. But I forgot to also answer one of your questions. So where the name came from for Vatnik Soup. I came from one user account that doesn't exist anymore. He just said that you need a name, you need a like a hashtag, and Vatnik Soup would be a cool name, and I, yeah, it sounds good. And then I just went with it, and the chef's outfit, I don't know where that came from. I just Vatnik Soup. So, but yeah,
No,
there it
it's
is.
good. It's great. It's great background. It's a great background. I like the you have some moments they're like bloopers. You know, you're just kind of goofing off a little bit before or after, and they're great. But the videos themselves are they're very funny, and you got good information that's coming out of there. So, but you've had I think you've hit every single big account. I mean, I can't think of any that you've missed lately, and I was kind of curious, you know, looking through the list that you've done. I mean, some of them everyone knows. Like mentioned Hinkle. Like you don't even need to talk about him to an extent because everyone knows him at this point, unfortunately. But I was curious. Do you feel like the majority of the ones that are based like in London and here in the states, and you know people like that, you got like Armchair, you got folks that live in the United States but are extremely you know extremely pro-Russian narratives. That's what they're putting out right now. Do you think most of them are true believers, or do you think that they are simply taking advantage of an opportunity, grifters? Like, what do you think? And you can use some examples if you like.
I would say that a lot of them are motivated by money. There are definitely true believers, and of course, these can be combined too. I also feel like a lot of people are have bruised egos. They've been maybe let down by their own country, the United States or United Kingdom. They maybe feel like, for example, we have people who have served in the U.S. military, and kind of what's the term? Is it when you cannot really make higher rank anymore? Like your career is stalling, kind of.
Yeah, they peak a little bit, or they don't peak at all. They just kind of
Yeah,
peter out.
so like Douglas McGregor, Scott Reeder, and now Tyler Weaver, aka Armchair Warlord, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So basically, I feel like maybe they feel like they've been kind of let down, disenfranchised in their own country, and being let down by their own country also. So they kind of take it all against
yeah. I definitely
their
agree with the
government after that.
yeah, especially for the military officers. That's been a really weird one for me, you know. But at the same time, it does make sense. Every single one of those examples have a reason to. They do. They have personal reasons, but you know there may be ulterior motives there as well. But it's kind of strange. I mean, do you was that a shock for? I mean, you maybe not a shock for you because you kind of had some background in disinformation stuff. But was has that been a surprise for you? Just the number of military guys from the West that are coming out and gals actually with what's her name from New Jersey.
Sir
Davushka or
Bill's
whatever her name was, right? Has that been a shock for
Ludmila, I
you?
think. Yeah. Um, kind of, yeah. Maybe the high number of this type of people, but
Yeah.
also I guess if you are being sent, I mean, these people, some of them probably have been involved in some conflicts, like actual war. I mean, it can change your perspective, I suppose, and
Mhm.
but it's very difficult to kind of figure out why aren't they trying to change their own country for the better rather than going with the worst enemy of like your own country and go with that. And like, why do you sell yourself to that ideology, be it
Yeah.
Russia or Communist Party of China or whatever? So that's surprising to me.
Well, there is I mean, there is a narrative, obviously, more so one coming up with the election that, us, the U.S. especially, leaving Russia to its or leaving Ukraine to its fate is better for the country, and that's like a line that has been used a lot, and it's obviously you and I would be on the same page that we would disagree with that, but that's definitely a narrative that exists, and we're going to hear more, obviously more and more of it. Some of those guys that you mentioned, I think there's a little bit of that, but I think, like you said, I think a lot of it's a grift. In specific, specific, oh my god, specific circumstances, it is a narcissism thing. It's definitely a narcissism thing. They just want to hear their own opinion get, you know, retweeted and shared and retweeted. Like Armchair is one of the worst. I mean, your thread on him, what was it, 2 3 days ago, a couple days ago?
Hmm.
Um, you had your receipts, right? You had your screenshots, you had your multiple screenshots of past statements that were all just blatantly wrong. But even in his reply, even in his retweet to you, he still just it didn't catch. Nothing clicked at all. Because I think he even said, he's like, all it showed was that my narratives were right, and I was like, dude, you didn't. Like, I'm looking at it. This is all wrong. I don't get it. It's baffling. You have to just be so far up your own ass. That's the only way I can describe it. That's it. I don't
Yeah,
get it.
and we even left, like, I would say, dozens of example tweets.
Oh, for sure.
Like there's so much more to go with, and probably even worse stuff
No,
than I
would have been your
posted. But
longest thread you've ever done. Just know you don't have any
uh,
time for that.
yeah, exactly. Like, and yeah, Twitter is, it kind of the whole thread system breaks after 25
Right.
posts. So,
Oh, that's
but
true. Is that actually what breaks it? I didn't know that.
it kind of breaks, so you can only put 25 at once, and then you can put one after that, like, but
I
it
see.
doesn't read very well anymore. And I've realized that 15 to 20 is the sweet spot. People don't really, if you look at the how many people are still reading at the bottom, it's not that
Right.
much if you have 30 tweets. It's too
It's yeah,
much.
it's true. Yeah. After a while, you're like, oh, all right. And plus, you do the unroll and you read the unroll. So, but
Yeah, just
uh,
start a Substack if you have to do plus
yeah,
25.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Has there who who's been your favorite to write about and put out there?
I think yeah, I think I'm gonna say Ian Malmström because it's just such an incredible story. Basically, do you know Ian Malmström?
Yes, unfortunately, I do.
Still great, I think his account name. So basically, he used to be involved in this extreme social justice movement
Mm,
of like, well, there was this video game kind of phenomenon, or how would you call it? There was some controversy in video game developer among video game developers and gamers about harassment of women, and he was involved in that. But then
yes,
and he was like
Gamergate.
Gamergate, exactly, and he was
Yeah.
a big opponent of Putin. Still, I think 2014, maybe even 2016, and you check these old tweets and it's like Putin is an asshole and that, etc. And then you see that it's like nobody gives a shit, nobody cares about his tweets, and then he becomes this anti-woke crusader, uh, Putin's best buddy, and suddenly he becomes quite big.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, he's been involved in this kind of grift for a long time, and at some point he kind of maybe figured out how to become noticed and how to get the engagement. And to me, he seems like completely cynical person who has no kind of his only value is the money value he gets from his post basically. And but yeah, he's also a columnist for RT, kind of doing this anti-woke uh, stuff. I wouldn't go and read the columns; they're not very good. But if you're interested, you can check them. But yeah, probably my favorite. Another one I would say Kim.com because it just became such a big thing. So like him suing me, like threatening to sue me. Nothing, of course, came out of it. And he was like posting, tweeting that I'm looking for a solicitor in Finland. You get paid 6 months
So
salary. And
it was so funny though. I could not help but laugh because what was he gonna do? Get you like extradited to New Zealand before he gets extradited to the states? Like, what was his plan? I don't. Ridiculous. I
yeah,
mean,
and he's actually I think his mother is Finnish, so he's
oh
half
really?
Finnish. Yeah. So, but the thing is that he didn't really he thinks that the justice system in Finland works like it works in the US, probably like you can get huge fines and so on, but you cannot really profit from a lawsuit in Finland. So basically, the fines are quite small, and it's yeah, so it doesn't really work like that. But
Well,
it
I mean,
never worked like
what
that.
would he have sued you for? Defamation? I mean, what was the actual? You know what I mean? Like, what would you even do?
Uh, yeah, I don't think he had any grounds. Basically, what I did in this case too was just refer to his own words and some of the legal documents. But
Yeah,
uh,
and then
he
and that
eventually he blocked me. And same happened with Ian Maestro. He was trying to kind of do a counter thing, and but he couldn't, and then he just blocked me. So that's like the final move.
it's always the easy answer. I mean, just maybe start with that. If it's never gonna, it doesn't seem to go. I mean, like you said, you guys do a good job at bringing receipts. I mean, there's nothing in there that isn't backed up by an example or an image, a link, to a statement being made. I mean, it's not just speculation. So kudos to you guys for that. But the reactions are really really funny.
Yeah.
They're really funny.
Yeah, and to be honest, the moments when the account following has grown the fastest is when all these controversial events happen. So, I mean, it just kind of reinforces the idea that this kind of hate farming or rage farming is a thing, and people are drawn into controversies and this kind of drama, and people want to see more of that. So. Uh, yeah, if I think I could provide hint for everybody who's going to be in the future editions of Vatnik Soup. Probably the best uh, thing to do is just be quiet because social media everything dies pretty quickly. So
Yeah,
yeah, engaging often brings more drama. But
true, true. I mean, what you're trying to do is just put out put out a nugget of truth at the very least. If anyone is just scrolling through and wondering if someone's a valid source, they can at least go back to yours and say, "Oh well, maybe there's some reasons to doubt this information coming out." But to be honest, like the other side, the cynical side of my brain is like there's so many out there that you can attach an image of an actual tweet or statement that they made. They'll still deny it like it just doesn't exist. I mean, there's just some people out there it doesn't mean anything to. But I think like you said, I mean, disinformation is great just to tackle right then and there with some really solid proof of the statements, proof of anything, proof showing otherwise, and then you just let it, you let it wither from there. It seems to it's been good. It's been good to see because I didn't use the last time I remember using Twitter was like a decade ago, and it was just bad. When the first war in Ukraine kicked off in 14, it was just all Russian bots. I mean, there was nothing. you couldn't find anything. It was crazy. And maybe it was on me because I wasn't really using it. I didn't really know where to look, who to talk to, I'm not sure. But then this time around, it's been very, very, very different. And I'm kind of curious. Is that just me? Like, have you noticed that the response to bot farms and the response to all these like random narratives coming out of who knows where? Have you noticed it's been a little bit more aggressive from like the Western point of view? Again, up till now, I don't remember ever seeing a lot of pushback to the bots. But now, like you have like NAFO, you have like many organizations like that aren't actually organizations; they're just people that just trying to push back on narratives. Did you expect that? Anything like that, or has it been kind of a surprise?
NAFO was just a complete surprise to me. I come from a kind of a different background when it comes to social media. I was in 2014. I was on a lot on 4chan, and it was probably even worse than Twitter in many ways. But yeah, so I kind of know how bad the environment can be. I've also been, to some extent, I've been going to 8chan at some point, but NAFO has been extremely powerful counter to all this disinformation and pro-Kremlin propaganda. I've said it 100 times, and I can say it 100 times more. I don't. And also, I've said this before, but they also helped me grow. So NAFO, as this NAFO, whatever is the correct pronunciation, they kind of helped me grow in the beginning. So just kind of this decentralized network of activists. I gained a lot of followers from that, and also, yeah, maybe I didn't exploit the NAFO network, but
No, of course.
it really benefited me, and I also try to promote NAFO and NAFO individual NAFO activists because of that, because they helped me in the beginning, so I want to help them now, and I think this is something that's also the difference between, if you look at Ian Miles Strong and any average NAFO activist. The difference is that Ian Miles Strong is interested in Ian Miles Strong, nobody else. You look at NAFO activists; they're always sharing crowdfunding efforts, fundraisers, any kind of interesting posts. They're doing bonking and this kind of like reporting trolls and so it's for Ukraine. They are altruistic rather than these very self-centered grifters who are basically interested in themselves, like Jackson Hinkle and Neil Strong, probably the biggest, like the most uh, kind of evident examples.
Yeah, and they had some very public spats too. This big guy. I mean, they're like, especially when because with everything going on in Palestine, Israel right now, there was a few that were going. They were button heads in public for a while. It was interesting to see. I don't know if that was indicative of anything. I mean, I think that was kind of par for the course, but yeah, no, but you're right. I wouldn't consider it exploiting or anything. I think you're putting out information that that group of people and people that are interested in those same topics want to see, so it's beneficial, and again, it's helpful to have something to go back to and say, nope, this is why this is wrong, and this is this is why this narrative doesn't make any sense, and here's example and here's proof. So it's great, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing more. Do you have any? I know you just posted one this morning that I haven't gotten to, or this morning for me. I haven't gotten to read it yet, but do you have any very interesting ones coming up that you're excited about that you want to spoil, or do you want to keep those a secret for now?
I can talk about the future stuff, no problem. So I'm going to. I've been doing quite a lot of research on this. So there's this big movement in the states. It's driven by Tucker Carlson that Zelensky and his kind of government is fighting against some of the churches in Ukraine. So like forbidding them to do basically anything. and they've been pushing this very aggressively because they probably want to affect the voters on the matter. So, as we all know, in the United States, religion still plays a very large role, and kind of this anti-Christian approach. They're kind of trying it, and it's working, uh, like surprisingly well. So, and there is this so-called union that's a bit shady, and they've been basically behind the whole movement. So, and they've been
Mm,
working with Colson. So there's going to be a, I think it's going to be interesting soup when that comes out, but it requires quite a bit of research.
yeah.
So if you look
Yeah.
at Tucker Carlson's latest episodes, I don't know what they're called, his propaganda pieces, they focus around this religion and how Zelensky and Ukraine is forbidding some kind of like Orthodox churches, which are basically they are directly connected to the Kremlin, and as we all know, the Orthodox Church in Russia is closely related to KGB, FSB operations. So basically, it's been used for espionage for a long time. So they probably have a good reason to actually close these churches. But yeah, they don't just Tucker Carlson and his friends. They spin it somehow that it seems like it's this. I'm looking for the word, but persecution
Yeah.
of
No,
of
that's
of, of Christian figures and priests and so on. So that's probably the biggest research we're doing right now.
that'll be an interesting one. I'd be very I'm gonna look forward to that one. And you're right. Unfortunately, religion is still a even again when Israel started off. I think there were a few politicians. I'll let you take which guess which party they were a part of, but they put out like they had a couple of them I retweeted basically saying, well, Ukraine isn't in the Bible. Ukraine's not in the end times. And then there's like in my when I grew up, I grew up in a smaller country town area, very Southern Baptist. I don't know if you've ever heard of Southern Baptist, but they are very big believers in the end of times and what that looks like, and it all centers around Armageddon that takes place in Jerusalem in Israel, and a lot of them interpret these two names. I forget what they were called, Gog and Magog. I think is what they're called in the Bible. They interpret them as Russia and either China or like Iran. Like they've tied these like ancient names from the Bible into countries that exist now. So the irony behind that never made any sense to me though. They were like, we have to support Israel because Israel's in the end times, and to be on Israel's side in the end times means that we'll be okay. I guess I don't really know. And then they use that as a justification to not then support Ukraine to an extent, which doesn't also make sense because again, if Russia is this big villain in the Bible, wouldn't that also be the villain in Ukraine? You know what I mean? It doesn't like there's just like this whole weird, but there's so many different bits and pieces of these like sects of Christianity that it's impossible to pin it down just one and focus on it. There's just so many branches. So, but you're right. Again, you're right though that there's way too much mixture, and you, why the Bible is used for justification for things is it's a question as old as the country itself. So here we are. What can we do? All we can do is keep talking about it and trying to ask questions and maybe question some thought processes and hope it opens the mindset. But a lot of that too, man, I think that's also a grift. I think they know that their voter base are super religious, so they're just going to take advantage of
Mm.
that, and that's it. They don't care. They're not they're not religious at all. It's just
Uh, if you look at if you look at the the super churches or this kind of things in the states, and it's like it's not very, to me it doesn't seem very Christian when you just build these huge temples and what swimming pools and tennis courts and like living this life of luxury. But yeah, I'm not an expert on religion, so
well,
but
no, you don't have to be an expert on religion. I think you're right. There was a mega church that they legit said that God wanted them to have like a private jet or something, and they're like, we need
uh,
this much money, and they raised it. It was crazy.
yeah, mega church. Yeah, that's the term. Can I ask you, how do you see the upcoming election?
Uh, anxiously, very very anxiously. That's the way I see it. I think it's I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Obviously, Trump's the front leader for the Republican Party right now. He has what 30 indictments going on all at once. I, I'm assuming I don't know if he's going to get charged or arrested. I have no idea. So I'm going to assume that he's going to be the Republican candidate, just because we shouldn't assume otherwise. Uh, he could go through all these trials and nothing happens. That's just the reality. That's very possible. Obviously Biden is going to run again. I assume. He's got his strengths and weaknesses as well. Obviously, I think from the Ukrainian standpoint and really the NATO standpoint, just from where I'm sitting, obviously one option is a lot worse than the other. I'll let everyone else speculate on who is who, but I'm a little more anxious about just I'm anxious about the average person that we keep seeing um, online, either the terminally online people or those that are even making threats in person. Those same people that got a little too carried away back in January 6th during that whole little whatever happened there. Um, I'm nervous about them if Trump lost again. I think it'd be a whole mess, from that. But obviously, we can't prevent that. I think the longer term problem I have is that you cannot have a conversation now about elections or even trials. It doesn't matter. Everything is corrupt now. So Trump could win, and they obviously wouldn't say a word. But the second he loses, if he loses, it's well, the elections are fraud. Everything is fake. We're living in a dictatorship. That kind of thing. So Trump could be found guilty tomorrow on all these indictments. Well, the jury was stacked against him. The DOJ is corrupt. But on the same side, Trump yesterday, basically not yesterday, this past week, put out like a list of people he's going to target if he becomes president, which to me sounds like a corrupt Department of Justice, right? um, so I'm more nervous about the bipartisanship, the split. It's very very split right now, and it's mostly you'd know better than I would. I mean, a lot of it is blown out of proportion, right? You see like you said, you see this stuff that's going to go negative. That's what shares fast online, because good stuff
Mm.
doesn't. You and I, like you and I could be having a conversation like this, and it's great. I have friends of mine that are the complete opposite side of the political spectrum. We talk every day, and we disagree 100%. Like 100%. Nothing. There's no agreement. I can think of like one friend wants to get abolish NATO entirely, abolish the U.S. military entirely. Obviously, we disagree very strongly on that, but him and I are still really good friends. We can still talk through stuff like that and get to the end. And that is not what you see online. You don't see that. You just see some ultra mega 2024, say something horrible to someone, and then you see them get a reply that's just equally vicious, but a little bit different. I, I don't know. I try to stay positive about it, but it's tough. It's tough. I mean, election year sucks here. I might go to Finland actually. I'm thinking about I'll just go over there and camp out for a while.
You're always welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
When I'm there, you're always welcome to. I'll show you around. I'll book the ticket. And you
I've
can
always
meet
wanted to
up.
go though. I do legitimately want to go to Finland and just Scandinavia in general at some point. But my last trip to Europe was just to Ireland. But I gotta spread out a little bit more. I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. Soon, maybe
Yeah.
come January in the next year I'll be there,
Yeah,
hide
just
out
let
for a
me know
while.
in advance, and I'll book the tickets too.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, about the like social media and interactions, also online interactions, it's missing a lot from. It's not human interaction in my view. It's like it's this it it lacks this essential part of human interaction, like this face-to-face communication, and us being like there's non-verbal communication, and it's this very cold, hard approach to having discussions. You don't see any emotion from the other person, and it's very provocative, and it's very polarizing. And it seems that when people are online, especially anonymously, they post the most extreme takes on everything, and it's extremely controversial. And we also tend to react the strongest to this kind of take. So you take these uh, provocateurs like Ian Miles Chong or Jackson Hinkle. It's we are drawn to this kind of people because
Right.
even those who kind of oppose their thinking and worldview, we are drawn to them because they're like so controversial. They're such an assholes that we just have to go and see what they've been posting today, and
Yeah,
this is how they make their money. Is
it's true.
basically this, and this is why Tucker Carlson is such a big character. He's very controversial, and he probably doesn't believe 100% that he's saying. He's even admitted it himself on this law on this lawsuit on this election stuff. He admitted it, and he's just basically for the money and for the fame and I don't know attention, whatever is the motivator there, ego.
It is pretty wild though. I mean, he literally was quoted as saying that that was related to the election, wasn't it? That they were talking about like Fox pushing that the election was stolen, and most of the Fox executives were like, "No, no, it wasn't," or "We know it's not," but they pushed it anyway. Wasn't that was like the whole shebang? Like you said, he got quoted saying stuff like that. People still just buy everything he's saying. I'm like, dude, he admitted that he is saying it for the sake of the audience. Not a true believer, but it doesn't matter. It's just the words, they just read the words. And that's it.
People don't care. Yeah, people don't
No.
care, and they'll just say that. I mean, it's a conspiracy or something like that. It's
Yeah.
they'll make something up so that their whole worldview doesn't crash and burn. So they kind of have to explain the thing so that it sounds reasonable and rational to themselves. So
Right.
yeah, but it's this. Lately, I've been talking about a lot about this like cognitive warfare. So we are. It's more about battle of the minds, and I still feel like there's a lot of people who, with proper education and informing, could be turned to think differently. And I think it's perfectly fine to be kind of skeptical in your thinking and always kind of try to find a rational in things. And this kind of thinking, critical thinking, should be taught to everybody. So it shouldn't be like, okay, Donald Trump or Joe Biden says something and that's the truth. That's the absolute truth because it's come on, it's Donald Trump or it's Joe Biden. But we should have a critical approach to absolutely everything, but without resorting to conspiracy theories or like we there should be evidence also.
Yeah. Well, critical thinking is hard. It takes a lot more
It takes
time.
time. Yeah, it's much easier to just take things as they are given to you and just go with that.
Yep. It's what can you do? What can you do? I did start changing how I respond. You're right because I think at some point a lot of it was just like Hinkle was one of the worst. I think he was purely baiting to get engagement. Like he would say something like completely off the wall. He somehow managed to offend like two or three groups at once, but it was such like a nonsense statement. I started to realize that that's all it is. It's just to push engagement. It's just to get people to hate click, so you can start pulling in ad revenue. So a lot of them I like will not retweet anymore. I've stopped doing it entirely. All I do, kind of like what you do, is I just take screenshots, so that way they get no traffic to that post. I'm not doing it anymore,
Mm.
and that seems to be helpful. I mean, I don't know, but I'm hoping that, at least for me personally, I'm trying to avoid that at all. I don't want them to get a scent, even from me reading through it and just getting irritated. I don't even want them to get that. But a few of them now I just kind of laugh at because we know who they are. We know they have nothing to offer, so you can sort of kind of just like let it go past you and not think too much about. But again, like you're doing, calling it out is still important. You should call it out, especially if it's dangerously wrong.
Yeah, And I feel like what's important is to bring out the motives. Why are people doing this? Because once maybe somebody realizes that maybe Tucker Carlson or Jackson Hinkle or whoever is doing it for money or to kind of feed their ego, or I don't know, maybe there's some compromise on them, or compromising content. You kind of realize, okay, where is this all this coming from? And I've sometimes I've written about this acronym called MICE. Maybe you know it. So money, ideology, compromat or compromising content
Mm,
or like video material, and ego. So MICE, and those I classify them as the main motivator, four main motivators for Vatniks. In why they do what they do. So basically a lot of stuff you can explain this, and of course they can be a lot of people can also be motivated by multiple things, so maybe ideology and money, or money and ego, both can they go very well
yeah,
hand in hand. So
that they do.
but yeah, I've been trying to kind of build a theory on this, around this, like how these people are motivated. The acronym itself, it comes from counter espionage. So how the CIA used to kind of try and recruit counter spies, or whatever they called, or spies in general, and these four motivators were kind of mentioned there. Uh, it's the whole system has kind of outlived its usability in espionage, but I think it applies quite well to
Yeah.
this kind of disinformation and propaganda spreading.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. There was an acronym I don't remember now, but we would get taught it, during training, and just sometimes we'd have some annual kind of like refreshing training, and it was at the time it was like, make sure that the girl sending you a, a Facebook or friend request isn't from ISIS or something. It's kind of funny in hindsight, but there were like there were some really good opportunities where they identified things that, like, if a soldier is struggling financially and all of a sudden they start buying new cars, if they've been passed up from a promotion and they are struggling financially, and like all these indicators basically that says like you need to keep an eye out and make sure that you're not seeing anything that's unusual. And what the last couple months we've seen three or four, I think mostly Navy guys, get arrested for espionage to China, or attempting to sell stuff, and it turns out it was the FBI undercover. But but that is how they target people. They target people exactly like that. So that it's a good acronym. I wish I could remember what we called ours, but it's essentially the exact same thing. Just look
Mm.
for opportunities and look for weak links in the chain, and because that's what our adversaries are doing, and they're going to try to take advantage of it, and you know, usually with money. That's number one. So it's a perennial concept. It's never going to go away. But well, Pekka, tell you what, I appreciate your time today. I kind of, like I said, I still have to read through your most recent one that you did this morning. I'm curious to see, but any last words of wisdom, I suppose, or anything that you want to share, that you want to bring attention to, whether it's a charity or an organization or something like that.
Mm, no, maybe I conclude with what I usually say in podcasts and this kind of events, is that people should sometimes get away from social media for a while, go to nature. I mean, I don't know, go fishing, go hunting, just enjoy time with your friends and family. Social media will always be there. It's not going to go anywhere. And you won't die if you miss 2 days or 3 days of updates on breaking stuff. I say this also for myself because it's difficult for me sometimes.
Yep.
And it's a very difficult, sorry, it's a very different world if outside social media. We have more of this like natural human interactions, and spending time with your friends is usually a good way to spend your time. Um, but yeah, let's keep up the good fight for Ukraine and support them in any way we can. I think that's what we have to do now and in the future.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great advice about going outside too. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about, where everyone online is spitting poison, but take a walk down the street, people are friendly. Go to the park, people are friendly, and that's you can have great conversations, and they are a little bit more positive. So it's great advice. I need to take breaks, and I do when I get opportunities, and it's a huge help. I mean, I can't imagine just staring at all that, like I said, poison all day long. I think I would just lose my mind. So, good feedback. All right, man. Well, be safe over there. I'm gonna be obviously looking out for more of the Vatnik Soup episodes because I've been enjoying them. But I appreciate your time, and we'll be talking soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah,
Let's do like a long
yeah.
recording.
I'd like to get some others, maybe some other folks that are doing similar things to you're doing. And I'd like to just almost do like a round table and see how you all approach this method of combating disinformation. I'd be really interested to hear competing thoughts and ideas.
Let's do it. And
All right,
we can even invite Jackson Hinkle too.
there you. Oh God, man, that would be so. Oh man, I don't know. I'd have to mute myself though the entire time. I think I would just leave my camera on and just mute and drink probably and just listen to you guys. I'll just MC. That's it. But that's a great idea. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you again. Be safe. Okay.
All right, thanks. It was great.
Thanks.